All right, welcome to the masterclass on selling the unsellable. Is everybody here selling some sort of a commodity? Yay, let me see some emojis, likes. I mean, I know 99% of everybody is. So, right. So how the heck do we add value in a commoditized market? That is what we're here for today. I have a couple worksheets for us. I'm giving it all away like I always do. Let me just I'm sorry, I lost everything. Okay, cool. So cameras on, chat in the chat. You guys, if you have been here before, you know, like, let's make this interaction. We're only interactive. We're only here for 60 minutes, right? So put everything else away, hide your phone, turn off your email notifications, and just be here to be here. And as I see more people, I'll try to let people in. Okay, so I am Kristen Gutierrez. Thank you so much for spending an hour with me. I am an impact coach, helping businesses and individuals take the initiative and maximize outcomes in life and at work. Anybody know what the blue ocean strategy is? Comment in the chat, give me some emojis. Let me link the first thing for you guys here. No. Okay, cool. So check out this URL and I will, I'm going to go there too. Let me share my screen. Yeah. Okay. I don't know how to do it otherwise. Okay. Oops. Cool. So, Blue Ocean Strategy, this is a summary, right? There's a book. If you've been following me for a minute, you'll know that I believe in net, no extra time. So figure out how in your own world it works for you to start absorbing information and content at a more rapid pace that doesn't require you to sit in front of a computer because you are commuting or going on walks or working out, or you're in the shower, or you're folding laundry. Does anybody here fold laundry? I mean, I don't, I make my husband do it, but everybody else fold laundry. Yeah. So, so find a way to increase your intake of content. Ninja tip number one, in doing so, download Audible if you haven't already and pay the bare minimum subscription. It will change your life. And then when people start to suggest books or concepts to you, look them up. And I'm only saying this because it's what I do and it works, right? And this is what other people have taught me to do. So the blue ocean strategy, the concept here is we conceptually, as sellers, as companies trying to sell products and services, we have a tendency to go where our competition is. Yes. Like, what's the other vendor selling? What's the other vendor offering? What's the other product provider doing? Let's do that too. The concept of blue ocean strategy is the pursuit of differentiation. When you, a salesperson or a company, can differentiate from your competition in a way in which they aren't already competing, you have now created what's called a blue ocean, and you're competing against yourself. So the goal is, no matter if you don't own your own company here, most of us, I believe, are individual contributors, right? But also in the replay, if you're leading a team, if you're leading a company, or if it's your own company, or if you're an individual contributor, we all have the ability to differentiate ourselves. Hopefully at a corporate level, or at least at a leadership level, like a sales leadership level, your leaders understand the concept of differentiation and are not competing against the same thing. So those of us in the localization world, what are we competing against? Say it in the chat. Let's pull it up. I'm going to take a sip of water and I'm going to start to pull up my next spreadsheet. But what are we competing against, guys? Come on. Let's see. Myself, AI. Okay. Other LSPs. Yep. Okay. What else? Like what pricing? Yep. Quality. Yep. What are we competing against? What do we think that we're competing against? If you're selling in a commoditized market, what you are competing against is not cost, quality, and turnaround time. We think we are, right? And so it's a little bit of a layup. I've set you guys up, right? Other firms, right? But the thing is, the reality is, we've like interviewed our customers before, and like buyers who are super, no, Carrie Fisher from Subway. I'm like, everybody knows her. Yes, because she's everywhere. She's the president of Women in Localization. If you don't know that, she loves talking on podcasts and giving things away for free and like her insights. She's a mentor, right? She was my client forever. And she'll say, but she's not alone, right? She will say, you're not competing against price, quality, and turnaround time. Because if you're a vendor offering translation services, the reality is, and this works for anything, right? So like, take this with a grain of salt, but like, if you're a vendor offering translation services, you better be able to deliver on price and quality and turnaround time. Doesn't that just hit different? So what are you actually competing on? You have to create blue ocean. You have to create a blue ocean. Otherwise, what's going to happen? Anybody know? Anybody ever been in a pricing war? And listen, there's like, you can't avoid it at all times, right? Like, I get it. RFPs, reverse auctions, like all the things, like you can't avoid it. But when you can, is in a situation where you find meetings yourself, where you're driving innovation, where you're creating this blue ocean. And even if it's a competitive situation, how do you differentiate yourself, your company, your department, your offering, your commoditized service from everyone else? And that's kind of what we're here for today, is to talk about, it's not price, quality, or turnaround time, or the other firms. When you can figure out how to put yourself, your company, right? Melanie and Steve, I don't know what your company's called, but like when you can put your headhunting firm in a league of its own, despite selling the same people, right? The same exact thing that every other quote headhunting firm is selling. Now you can differentiate because you're putting yourself in a league of your own. You need differentiators that wrapped in stories to prove why you versus anyone else. And when you're so good at what you do, you will so far outpace your competition that you'll be competing only against yourselves. That means, you get to charge the right price to achieve the right profitability. And so, i.e., this is creating a blue ocean. Okay, let me share. Those of you just joining, sorry, I'm only on one screen today and I keep losing everything I'm sharing. This is so embarrassing. Oh, here it is. Okay. Meetings made easy. So I have a couple spreadsheet or worksheets then per usual to kind of go over this stuff. You guys, do you want it all? Because people are paying top dollar for this now, and I'm giving it all to you for free, because that is ultimately what I want my masterclasses to live on forever for, is a place where we can come together and we can like hash out ideas and we can look at strategies and we can actually just give you the things that are going to help you move your business. So the next worksheet I just shared is Meetings Made Easy. So this is my 4-step proprietary process to helping you get meetings. Now you're like, Kristen, why are we getting meetings when we're trying to differentiate? Because ultimately you can't differentiate without meetings. So is this worth it for a minute if we pause before we go into the innovation stuff and say, how do we get more meetings with prospects and clients who actually want to hear from us? Give me a yes. I see some head noddings. Give me some emojis. I've got you guys over here and I've got the worksheet over here. Okay, cool. And so I've done masterclasses on this concept before. We can do it again. And I started in June, a little behind the scenes academy called Innovation Academy, where it's an exclusive community for sales contributors and leaders, where we actually dive into the Meetings Made Easy blueprint and this innovation framework, where we spell it out in depth. And we do meetings twice a week, and I answer all the questions live, and we work on strategy in a group, and then people get one-to-one access with me. So it's been really awesome for the people that are in it. And just spoiler alert, we're opening up to like 6 more people here, or 6 to 10 more people coming up. But I wanted to like let you guys know that this is something that works. Can I get an amen if you've done this and it works? Okay. Pick your niche, create your avatar, research your avatar, and then get calls. It's simply that. This blueprint is 1 page. It's a cheat sheet for the blueprint, right? Your niche, you might be like, well, I already have a niche, right? So how many people here, tell me in the chat, let me find the chat. Tell me in the chat, how many verticals or subject areas do you call in? Because I'm going to like just, I know you probably see my screen moving around, right? It's probably, okay. So tell me in the chat, how many verticals you call in? Like, do you staff for only one vertical, or are you staffing roles in many different verticals? Are you calling on one type of person for translation buyers, i.e. only med dev companies, or are you calling on schools and government and legal? Are you calling on one state and one zip code? Did you know that people at salesforce.com, they call on one zip code, one zip code, right? All of the above, one, but lots of different categories. Savannah calls on a category that's so broad, it should have like 100 subcategories within it, right? Think about the category, the vertical that you're calling on, and I want you to niche it. So like the first step into getting meetings with people that actually need your service and that you can differentiate with to create blue ocean for yourself so that you're not competing, is to think about what you've been asked or tasked to do, what your quota is assigned to, and niche it down. So take the time. There's a little thing down here that's like, anybody ever painted a house or painted a room or painted anything? And listen, I know you're gonna be like, I don't use a tape anymore, but like we all know that like if you tape the darn room, it takes longer to tape than it actually does to paint. Yes, it's because like if you prep the room right, if you actually take the time to prep, then the actual thing of painting in this case is going to go much faster and easier, and you're going to have an excellent end product. So I don't want you to gloss over the fact that this is 4 simple steps on one tiny sheet, right? In the Action Innovation Academy, we've actually broken this out into 5 different videos, and then we meet on it every week to talk about it. So like your niche is very important to hone in and refine. So I'll give the examples in my own world, right? So like at translations.com, I called on 6 states. I had the Midwest as a territory, so it's pretty small as a niche, because listen, as my career has gone, I've had territories as big as the whole country. I've had teams who have territories as big as the whole country. It's crazy town. And I had one vertical. I had software. Okay, so I had software companies in the Midwest. And even then, you're still able to niche, and you really want to look at what is the best, within your niche. I had software. And so what software meant for me was it could be med dev companies. It could be like, typical like app products, right? It could be anything under the sun. So you want to understand what your vertical is, and you want to like divide it up so that you can go and hit your target audience with wide net, narrow net, and targeted messaging, and that you can target shoot people on LinkedIn a little bit easier and generic. Does anybody here comment in the chat if you get cold DMs on LinkedIn every single day? And who likes it? Tell me if you like it. I guarantee nobody likes it. So if we start talking like our niche, if we truly understand what our niche is, and trust me, software in the Midwest is pretty darn niched, but I'm going to like that. I give it as an example to say it's not niched enough, right? But guess what? In kind of having nowhere else to look but the Midwest, I figured out that Indianapolis, Indiana is like a Silicon Valley of, I forget what they call it actually, but like, have you heard of Silicon Slopes in Utah? So like, yeah, Melinda has, yeah. So there's like that in Indianapolis. There's that in Austin, Texas. There's that in a lot of different places. You need to know things about your vertical, even if other salespeople know them, but I guarantee you other salespeople aren't looking at this. So like picking your niche, I'm just going to drive it home, because this is truly the first step to differentiating in a commoditized market, is being able to talk the talk and walk the walk. I actually took a year off my salaried job in the industry to go work as a contractor for NetApp so that I could walk the walk and talk the talk. So I did that to rub shoulders with Anna Schlegel. I worked inside her globalization team. I made pennies doing it, right? So 1 step back, 10 steps forward. But that way I truly understood how companies were moving the needle to do ROI of globalization, how NetApp was communicating the ROI story of spending $2.5 million to $3 million a year with multiple vendors using multiple products, multiple processes, right? They had lots of different workflows embedded. And this is a cost to the business. The reality is what we're selling is a cost to the business. And so if we can't figure out not only how to add value to differentiate us from all of our competitors, all of us amongst ourselves and everybody else out there, right? All we're doing is shooting each other in the foot. Literally, all we are doing is shooting it. In fact, now a little bit unrelevant, but like I actually am thinking that like as part of my coaching, I'm going to start helping other entrepreneurs price more for their services, because I am so sick in spending 20 years in our industry, seeing how all we're doing is fighting against each other. Well, 11 cents, well, 10 cents, well, 9 cents. Well, I'll give this to you. I'll give that to you, instead of removing yourself from the equation and up-leveling yourself. And that's kind of like the whole crux here is like, how do you add value? First, you have to niche to become a subject matter expert. By doing so, you create your avatar. So like step number 2, am I still sharing? Step number 2 is like you create your avatar, right? And there's a whole process on doing that, but I'll gloss over it for a second. We can go into details. And then you research where your avatar hangs out, right? So like we are going to say that they hang out at LinkedIn, but we're also going to say that you might have gone to college with them. Who here is part, because it's not everybody. Say yes in the chat or send me some emojis if you went to a college which is like proud to be an alum. So I went to St. Mary's College, which is sister school to Notre Dame. I'm from South Bend, Indiana, which is also Notre Dame, blah, 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 blah. Notre Dame is like through and through in my blood. So like, I'm like Notre Dame, right? And it's not like borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. It truly is like one of the same community. And so Notre Dame alums love to connect with other Notre Dame alums. They love to help each other out. If you were in the military, right? If you are in a mom's club, I now am finding clients in my 5-year-old play group parents, friends, right? You never know where you might find clients. And so you have to like put yourself in the mind, the more you niche and the more you know about building your avatar and like how to create the person that you're speaking to, the more that you're able to differentiate and not send cold messages on LinkedIn, right? I mean, I've done it. Has anybody else here done it? Send a cold message in LinkedIn. You're like, let me just tell you about my services really fast. Okay. Ninja tip number 1, if this is your, or number like 3, if this is your first masterclass, when you start to get meetings, so like this whole concept of get calls, do calls, Jim knows what I'm talking about, right? It literally will change your life as a salesperson when you focus on the number 1 KPI of what, Leah? Meetings. The number 1 most important KPI anywhere for any reason is meetings. I've 20 years, especially in LSP world, right? And now as an entrepreneur, the number 1 metric, biggest metric. That's why this whole cheat sheet, meetings made easy, how to get meetings. So when you're niched and when you know your avatar and you know where they hang out and you can find them on LinkedIn or on Zoom info, right? Or on other resources. If you want to give back to this community here, put in the chat some places other than Zoom info or LinkedIn that you find clients or prospects to message, in addition to all the HubSpot contacts in your database that are dead. Right? Like everybody's got inherited a ton of dead contacts in HubSpot, or people come into the role and there's no contacts assigned to them. That's an interesting conundrum. So like we have to hang out where our people are hanging out. And if we're calling on schools, or if we're calling on law firms, or if we're calling on healthcare, if we're calling on software in the Midwest, like we have to know where they're hanging out. We have to go hang out there, virtually or physically, right? If once I knew that Indianapolis was a Silicon Valley of the Midwest or whatever they called themselves, I could virtually hang out there. I didn't live in Indianapolis at the time. And like, it wasn't this modern day, this is like 12 years ago, right? But like, I still virtually could find their websites and find their communities online. That's where you want to be prospecting, right? And so the number 1 metric of being able to differentiate and add value is first and foremost getting meetings. Does this make sense? I'm going to pivot into the innovation piece of it, but like this makes sense. We have to be able to get meetings. Otherwise it's all good for nothing, right? You have the best service in the world, the best white glove service, the best differentiators, but you can't actually get the meetings. won't have anything to talk about. All right, cool. So innovation, let me just make sure. Yes, in the chat. Okay. Yes. Join forums. Yes. Jim, I love it. Yes. All day long. If you didn't see Jim's, yep, been doing this for years. Yes. Google alerts. This, somebody here needs to hear this. So thank you, Jim. And I'm calling it out in case the chat obviously doesn't transfer with the replay. Use Google alerts for specific changes, promotions, leadership moves for specific industries, verticals. They'll come right to your inbox. Boom. Love it. Thank you so much, my friend. Okay, cool. So just kind of like a step back. There's tons of research on innovation, right? Gartner put this together. There's lots of other ways to look at it. It's just to help you realize that, like, what does innovation mean? It does not mean selling something that your client or your company cannot already produce. Give me like a heads up if you get what I'm saying. Like, I am not asking you to go back to your company and like have them create a solution. Like, I have worked at, I've worked at like 8 LSPs, and never once would I be able to move the needle, no matter my leadership role, on saying we should now be selling something new, because that takes R&D, it takes money, it takes resources away from other people. What I mean by innovation, and it's just a good point to clarify, is what you already do, what your core strengths are, and just doing it better than your competition. I should find somebody. Google, Savannah, I think you've done this for me in the past. ALC Amplify 2020, 2021, Kristen Gutierrez. You guys, it's a really bad video, right? So just with a grain of salt. Okay. Can I be so vulnerable as to share a super old video? But I've been doing my innovation framework for like 4 years. I've helped like 45 companies I've ran innovation at 45 different clients or prospects. And the thing that it does is differentiates me as a sales contributor, me as a sales leader with my team, Belinda, who was able to run innovation. Let me stop sharing just for a sec so I can see all your beautiful faces. So when you can run innovation, when you can like take a step back and say, like, how do I differentiate my services? Belinda used this to drive innovation at her toughest accounts while selling. No joke, right? We used Meetings Made Easy Blueprint to get a meeting with somebody in the industry who doesn't take meetings. And you've probably all heard this before, but that client uses one consultant who is basically his own LSP, and he doesn't use anybody else. And I tackled him at a in-person conference, and I was like, so nice to meet you. And he's like, oh, okay, crazy salesperson. And I followed up with him on LinkedIn, and I never talked to him again. And then ultimately when he, hello, welcome. And then ultimately when he looked at my LinkedIn profile at 5:30 in the morning, my time one day, I was like, hey, nice to see you. Here's a ninja tip. Are you open to a call about localization outcomes? Somebody write that in the chat, right? So we talked about niching, and we talked about avatars, and we talked about like finding them in Google Alerts or forums or communities or on LinkedIn where the people are hanging out, and having permission at the right time to ask for a call. And we didn't go there, right? But like, what's the number one metric? Meetings. And then how do we differentiate? Blue ocean strategies, right? Putting out our reel where there are plenty of fish, and not fighting over here in this little tiny pond where everybody else is fighting. And even if you're calling the exact same buyers, we're diving right now into the innovation framework. So that thank you, Leah. Are you open to a call about localization outcomes? Yes. Depending on what you're selling, depending on who you're selling, everybody, part of my Innovation Academy here knows that the words localization outcomes is going to be interchanged with whatever you're selling, whoever you're selling to. If you're selling to an Anna Schlegel, who's a very sophisticated buyer, or any leader within women in localization for that matter, you're going to want to talk globalization strategy, localization outcome stuff. But if you're talking to a law firm or a healthcare or a school or software in the Midwest, if I'm talking software in the Midwest, when I'm calling Amanda at Exact Target, who here never forgets their best clients, right? Never, right? When I cold called Amanda at Exact Target, she's like, we're not accepting any new vendors. And so I went around her and I called the legal counsel with an Exact Target. Why? Because we can translate contracts. And I read on the news, thanks to a Google alert, Jim, that Exact Target was going global. And in fact, Scott, the legal counsel, was super happy to talk to me and was like, yeah, in fact, we do need Brazilian Portuguese contracts and Australian English. We need to change up some English on our contracts. We won at Lionbridge a $1,500 project with Exact Target. And if anybody's ever sold at Lionbridge, you know you don't win $1,500 clients at Lionbridge. You win $1.5 million contracts. But I convinced my boss that I needed to win this tactical project in order for the greater good. I said, Scott, can you sign an MSA? I mean, the nerve I have to ask him to sign an MSA on $1,500. And you know what? He's a legal counsel. He said, yes. I went back to Amanda. I said, Amanda, I've got an MSA. We're a current vendor. She's like, cool. Here's an RFP. We won that. Whoa. I was like, whoa, such a proud moment. But I figured out how to differentiate from everybody else. And I knew my vertical so good that I was able, in this case, not necessarily to drive innovation. This is kind of where I went off the rails here, but like innovation isn't something new. It's putting yourself in a position to win. Anybody here heard my dog track story with my grandpa before? So I was at, man, my grandpa Jack, I just posted about him on LinkedIn. Go give him some love. He's obviously passed away last fall. I own his house now in Indiana. So blessed. But my grandpa Jack was full of stories and I loved spending time with him. And we'd always go to Florida and always loved the dog tracks. That man loved a horse track and a dog track. And if anybody wants the ninja strategy on how to win at the horse track, let me know, because he swears he could read the signs. Okay. But you can't race a dog the way you can race a horse. So dogs is just like, is a dog going to get out of the gate? Is a dog going to like get knocked over by the other dog? We always go to the dog track and I was losing. And there's like, what, 12 races, maybe 6th race. I hadn't won yet. I'm like, I need to change my odds. So I bet a boxed quinella on every single dog. And I knew how to read the odds well enough on the board in front that like, if the 2 favorites won, because the bet was like $160 when you typically can just bet $2 a race, right? I knew I'd make my money back because of like the way the odds worked. And if 2 long shots won, I would have killed it. And so any combination of a long shot, favorite, whatever, I was going to do okay. I came back to my seat so proud. My grandpa's like, we don't bet like that. So I'm so excited because no matter which 2 dogs cross the finish line, first and second, I win. And it just so happened, obviously, I made my money back because, a favorite and a nobody won. And then I kept betting like that for a couple more races, because when you're not winning, sometimes you just need to put yourself in position to win, right? Hear me out, right? Yes. Sometimes you just need a win. So there's this whole concept of like celebrate everything. So celebrate that. And when I was trying to differentiate myself at Exact Target, I just needed a win. So I won that $1,500 contract translation project. And so like we make a mistake as amazing sales contributors and leaders. We make the mistake of assuming our clients won't leave us. Yes. And that the competition is not beating on their door every single day. Yes. Do you know your clients are being called and bombarded, especially if they've been through my training? Just kidding. They've been bombarded 10 to 12 times by 20 to 30 different sales reps. Most of those messages are probably going into spam, right? Most of those messages are probably not good because you guys are great, right? But like everybody else, let's just say, is not so great. So you already have a leg up here, but like truly your best clients are being bombarded by everybody else all the time. And so you have to figure out a way to differentiate yourself and to drive this concept of innovation when you're not asking your company to invest time, money, or resources or R&D effort into a thing. You're just figuring out where the blue ocean is for you, right? So we tend to, I'm going to share the last spreadsheet, the worksheet here in a second. So like we tend to waste our energy on, especially existing clients, boring, QBRs that lack personalization, or not doing QBRs at all, like guilty, right? Introducing services at the wrong time, not following up, building insufficient proposals that miss the mark, not having executive sponsorship. My executive sponsorship at my last company within a client who did about 2 million a year with us, but was doing millions with other vendors, and was literally like the true example of being bombarded every single day. And you guys, if you've never worked at, who here has never worked at TransPerfect? They are ruthless. They are ruthless. The TDC TransPerfect brand, they are and there's thousands of sales reps. So like, I am not kidding. Your clients are being bombarded every single day by probably more than one TransPerfect rep, no joke, plus all the other vendors. And because of the executive sponsorship that I earned, I didn't get, right? Earned at my other client, I was able to keep them out. I wedged them out. I elbowed them out like I was playing soccer, elbowed them out of the arena, but every single week, every single QBR. So I had sponsorship, I had influencers within the account, I had people that truly knew, like, and trusted the process in which we were driving. And I first with them tested this concept of innovation framework on MT with them. And you know, the story goes, it was an existing account. I didn't hunt it, right? I'll be honest there. I inherited it from a sales rep who no longer worked for us. And the client was asking the sales rep for MT, give us MT, give us MT. And the sales rep, bless his heart, didn't know how to sell MT. And so what did he do? He brushed him off. You guys, that would have lost us the 2 million. I happen to love MT. I happen to love e-learning. I happen to love some of the really complex subject matters in the industry. And I said, wait a second, no, I've got a framework in which we can test and iterate the MT outcomes for you and see what's going to work for your content type, for your languages, and like do like a choose your own adventure type graph. I can test this for you, and we can see if it's going to work. And they were like, what? And so after months of complicated, not quite understanding the client, what the vendor, we were saying to them, I came in and saved the day, but I didn't do anything different. I literally gave them what they wanted in a framework that made sense. So who is ready for the framework? Give me a like or some emojis, or tell me in the chat you want to see the framework. All right. And then I've got brunch calling my name, guys. Not gonna lie. Just kidding. Okay, let's reshare. Hold on. I gotta find it again. I gotta find it again. Okay. Here we are. Okay. Is this stuff helpful so far? Yes. Okay. So I also like to conclude here. Listen, like, innovation is typically suggestive and participative in what I'm doing. But when you guys get really good at it, and for example, at my old company, I was like, oh, because I'm smart about e-learning and we were really good at e-learning. I was like, we should start doing some e-learning webinars and content, and like, done is better than perfect. And you can Google it, United Language Group e-learning, and like scroll to the bottom of the page once you find it. And like, there's some super old webinars and you'll see that like done is better than perfect, right? That's more of like directed and invitational. Okay. Like I'm giving you this as an example to tell you that like, I approached marketing and was like, can we put some content out to capture late leads, capture names, and even if nobody shows, you're right, 50 people registered here, there's about 12 of us, thank you for coming, right? You know, but like, no matter who shows, let's just do the darn webinar anyway, and then put the webinar on the website to capture leads retroactively. That's like directed and invitational because it's a specific subject matter and you're inviting people. And so like, directed means like a specific content type or service or solution, and invitational, right? Because invitational is in these two buckets. It means you're inviting them, right? And then participative means, or like even in this case, the e-learning, I'm sending out emails like, hey, join the e-learning webinar, you're inviting them, right? But where I'm talking about the innovation framework really meeting its mark is this concept of suggestive and participative. Say that 3 times fast. suggestive, participative, because you're not going to the client call with any predetermined, pre-suggested idea. You know what your company's really, really good at, and you're niching and you're calling on your avatars, and you're a subject matter expert now in the Midwest software companies, right? So you're a little bit, well, you're way better than your competition. But at the end of the day, you still need to get the clients on the call. Meetings is the #1 KPI, and then be able to drive them down a path. So Savannah, did you find that really bad video of me? You did. And did you put it in the chat? Okay. All right.
Yeah, it was the 2020. I put it in the chat.
Okay.
It was on your innovation.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Okay. So you guys can promise me you're not going to laugh at the video, but that link that she shared in the chat will give you a different perspective of the innovation framework. So let me share this with you so you have it. You guys have like 2 mega things from me. Can't promise. You're so honest. I love it. Yeah. No promises. What? Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing the link to that. And now here is the innovation framework, right? And I go into this in the Innovation Academy. They're getting a course on this. They're getting multiple videos about this. They'll get my horrible 2020 replay. And the reason it's like just so interesting to put this innovation framework out there in multiple different ways, right? Is because first of all, are we really fully paying attention right now? Is it all resonating? Do you have a deadline in the back of your head that you're like, shoot, like this is really great, but I got to go and like go do this deadline thing. So no matter where you are right now, there's like a lot of different ways to skin the cat. I hate to say, because I love cats. So just take this with a grain of salt and then use the meeting link at the end of today to book time with me. I'm going to just share it real quick in the chat. Use the meeting link to book time with me to go over anything that you want as it relates to meetings made easy, or the innovation framework, or joining the Innovation Academy, whatever it is. So this is the innovation framework, this plus the video she shared, plus everything else you might want to ask questions on. You want to have a meeting with a client and ask all the right questions and do way less of the talking than them to figure out what it is they have a challenge with. When my colleague, direct report Belinda, met with this stakeholder who doesn't take meetings with anybody, right? And I chased him down at Taos. I saw him look at my profile. I have no idea one morning. Why? Because you put content out on your profile and everybody's always watching, whether they're liking or engaging or not. Please help each other out and like and engage on people's content right now, because the algorithm has tanked us all. But everybody's always watching. And I was like, hey, are you open to what? Are you open to a call about localization outcomes? And he's like, sure. And I'm like, what? And so I scheduled a meeting with him. And I simply asked him, hey, like it's been forever. Are you still using Aki? Yes, I am. Okay, great. How is it going? Tell me about this. Okay. And then I knew what differentiated me as a vendor, right? I know what differentiates me as a salesperson. And I know what differentiates, ULG, right? Where I came from. And he doesn't have any e-learning needs. So I couldn't like pitch e-learning because that's pointless if they don't have the needs. But I listened to what he was saying, and I uncovered 2 needs. And I should run back and tell Belinda, because I still love them, even though they fired me, and remind her that there was another opportunity with him on the table, which was this concept of like creating content. If you're not having the right conversations right now with clients, know this in LSP world, because of all of this AI stuff, i.e. like beginning of the call, like one of our competitors now is AI, right? Oh, machine translation can do it all, or like, oh, Google Translate. Translators, like, let's think about AI in the industry, like allowing translators to come back to the thing that they really love to do, which is meaningfully within context, translate, create context. So listen, I've worked at so many vendors, and I just had lunch with somebody the other day. If you saw my LinkedIn post, translation, creation, localization, globalization, it all means something, but we all interchangeably refer to it as something else. Truly, not going to lie, like you've got to know that first and foremost. And your clients don't know it all unless they're on a Schlegel's and that level, right? And then you're talking with them about globalization ROI anyway. But for 99% of buyers, you need to truly be able to understand if they say interpretation to you, but you know that they actually mean translation. I mean, come on, let's be honest. That happens all the time, right? You just politely correct them and you sell them what they want. You sell, ninja tip number 100, sell them what they want, give them what they need. Amen, Jim? Amen. I know it. Right. So give them what they want, sell them what they need. What did I just say? Anyway, you have to physically give them what they actually need, but like sell them what they need, but give them what they want. So they don't know, and it's not their fault, but like listen to what they're saying. And I knew that this buyer, there was two opportunities. It was so cool because I followed my process to get the meeting, got on a call with him, and he told me two opportunities. There was an MT opportunity and there was a transcreation opportunity. And I had to choose. And you sometimes do, right? You have to choose a path. And I said, hey, Wayne, now you guys know. Hey, Wayne, why don't I have a framework for driving the outcomes of MT? I have a framework for driving outcomes of MT to test your content, to see if it's going to work, to analyze the results, to use our data scientists in Barcelona, right? Let's say you got a partner, an MT partner, like no matter what, like you have to know what you're playing with, right? Don't oversell. But like we had what we call data scientists in Barcelona, and we were doing this, I'm not kidding you, over 45 times in my prospects and clients and in my team's prospects and clients, that there was a system now that I created, right? Which is simply, what is the outcome that they're trying to desire? Okay, they're translating millions of dollars and there's no MT in place. And I have an opportunity to not run away from it or be scared, but to actually draw it toward me. Okay, the end of this ultimately is he gave us business. It was a miracle. It's crazy, right? Because he doesn't give business to anybody other than Aki. But he did because I took him through the framework. And the outcome of the framework, you'll see in the other video too, is that like, you don't have to come to a conclusion that your system is the best, that your process for MT is the best, that your transcreation outcomes are the best. You just simply have to take the client through a process so that you're not ever chasing them for another meeting. And so that there are meaningful next steps, and that who here believes in cross-selling and collaborating with your other peers, right? Like I am on record all the time saying, could I close a sale from A to Z myself? Yes. 20 years, I better be able to, but I never do, because it's way more fun to push that work onto other people. I'm just kidding. It's way more fun to bring in your operational counterparts or your subject matter experts from various parts of the business. If you have essays or not, if you have engineers or not, like no matter who the people are, it's way more fun to bring them in and sell with your peers. And so in a nutshell, this framework, as it's laid out in two places, and my Innovation Academy folks are going to get it like full in depth with like graphics. And that's why I'm saying, go check out that video from 2020. It's a way to it's a process. Hey, you had the first call, you had the meeting. Hey, I have a need, transcreation MT. I have to make a choice because you can't be everything to everybody. I had to put a pin in transcreation. I'm going to go text Belinda later and remind her to go back to that. But ultimately, I went down the MT path because it was a well-oiled machine for me at that point. Selling MT innovation in this framework works, right? And so, great. Next steps, send me some files. What does that mean? Oh my gosh, we get to go under NDA probably, and we're actually exchanging information for files. Anytime, obviously, in our industry, you can get a client to give us files, the more likely that you're building trust. People buy what? From people they know, like, and trust. And you're like having them give you, you're giving them. Never once in the innovation framework do you give pricing until the very, very, very end. What does that do? Preserves profitability and allows you to price it whatever the client sees is the most valuable. Okay. I am all about maximizing price when I can. That way, when I need to give away the farm, I do, right? So like I pitch internally to my senior leaders, to my boss, to my operational counterparts. Like I am like, let's increase rates. Let's not charge $65 an hour. Let's charge $95 an hour. Let's not give it for 12 cents. Let's give it for 15 cents. Let's do this, let's do that. Because there's obviously times where you do have to say, nope, I got to give this away for $50 an hour, not 65. And you want to be seen as a salesperson or a leader or a contributor that knows how to balance profitability. So in the framework, right, and kind of in this like guide I've given you here, you have a meeting to figure out what they want. You go down the path of testing out MT. Okay, you get the files, you run the files through your curated MT process or your MT process. If you don't have one, I can, truly consult the business on how to set that up. And then you get with the client again. And the client knows this because in the second meeting, you have a call to outline the process. You're like, Wayne, bring your people to the call. I'll bring my people to the call. And this is when I handed the work off to Belinda, separate church and state. And we kind of did like, okay, here's where we are. And here's what we're going to do with your files. Kind of sounds repetitive and like obvious, but like, no, clients are busy and they're not thinking about you all the time. Like you're thinking about them. So it's like managing expectations and saying, this is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to drive the process down. We're going to have this meeting to like review what we're looking at and what the expectations are. We're going to go away next and run the tests or whatever it is. In this case, curate some engines, which meant we needed what? Translation memories from the client. We need to like figure out if the content was worthy of running it through machine translation. It's just so magical because you're in control of the sale versus chasing the client for things that they don't want or that they don't need, or you're like, oh, can we please get on a call to review our quote? It's not about that. You're like establishing a partnership. Getting an NDA is golden. All right, 9 minutes left. I can't believe it. So like there's a lot to talk about on this subject, but is this helpful? Do you have questions? Let's pause there. I just want to be conscious of everyone's time. You're like, I'm confused. Tell me more. Where are we at? Where are we at? Anybody questions? Okay. No questions. No questions. Okay, so the innovation framework, to conclude then, right? It's a way, you have the cheat sheet and you'll have the video and we can get you access to more content, but it's a way to drive the client down a path. All you want to do is step it out, right? Step 1, figure out what the heck they need. Step 2, tell the client you've got a framework. That's it. Step 3, drive them through the framework. It's that simple. The outcome of the framework, that last step in the framework, is truly to be like, did this work? We love to use when we're testing MT, I'm going to give you a ninja tip. We love to use a green, yellow, and red light strategy to say what the data was, the outcomes of the data. Like if you're curating a machine engine based on the client's glossaries and translation memories and all the things, and then you're running their content through the engine, and then you're analyzing the data, the tear scores and the blue scores. And this is why you need help in the background, right? To kind of push this type of innovation through. Then you get back on the call with the client and you say like, look at the results. This language was a green light. It meant that the data, the tear scores and the blue scores of the machine translation were so great that the outcome of the machine translation, because the engines were curated, is so solid that we would recommend this was a logical approach. But guess what? The next step in all of this, even if we say it's a green light, even if we say it's a yellow light and a red light is like, no way, pass, or we need to curate the engines more, we need to look at more stuff. You, the client, are going to have your reviewers run this through review. And your reviewers are going to tell you, was the content of the machine translation output good enough or substantial? And the ninja tip there is, don't tell the reviewers what they're looking at. Don't tell the reviewers they're looking at machine translated content. Just ask them their opinion. We're testing out a new vendor, right? We're testing out a new process. What do you think about this the quality of this output? And they'll be like, trust me, on a green light process, they'll be like, it looks great. And then, then you can, then you're not convincing, then the business, the stakeholder that you're working with knows that the risk associated with using that methodology for that language, for that content type is minimal. The risk is minimal. So they can start to save money give you some work, or in the case of it's already an existing account, you might be sacrificing in that case a little bit of money, right? Because you're giving them MT where you were typically charging them full rates, but you're hedging your bet against your competition. Because if you don't know it, like I said earlier, there's more than one TransPerfect person calling any one of your accounts at any given time, and there's lots of other vendors calling too. So if you're not introducing transcreation or machine translation, or if you're not asking the questions on the discovery calls to find out that they have these true needs, and then putting together the right pods of teams to like drive this innovation framework within your accounts for the different content, other vendors are calling. And this happened to me on maternity leave. Intento, I mean, it's like a joke, but it wasn't really funny. Intento came in and swooped my Subway business away while I was on maternity leave, because I wasn't there to remind Carrie that for the 50th time that we could do MT, right? And Intento came, he didn't know I was on maternity leave. It's just the irony of the world. And he came in and I came back and we lost like so much of our spend because another competitor had come in and done what we could do. And then the further irony is I told her we could do it. She let me prove it to her. We did through my innovation framework. And then she ultimately said, well, I've already, made a commitment. I'm going to go down this other path. And so, whatever, we saved face. It's all fine. It's all fine that ended fine, but like it stung. I mentioned it for like the 100th time because it really did sting. So I want to leave you with this, which is like, get meetings, get calls, do calls, drive innovation. If you have questions, use that link to schedule 15 minutes with me. I'll put it back in the chat. Use this link to schedule 15 minutes with me, and let's like hash out what one of your existing accounts or one of your prospects, like, first you just have to have the meetings, and then you have to ask the right questions in the meetings to understand what they're looking for, right? And then no matter what that is, I would say, be so bold as to be like, I have a framework for that. And then call me SOS and let's figure out what that framework looks like for you, for your client, or, work with your peers internally. That's how you sell the unsellable and value add in a commoditized market. Yay, that's it. Yay. Any questions? I love it. Thank you for all of you who were here today and participating. Trying to see if I missed anything. I don't think so. What you guys got? Comment?
No questions. Give us more.
Join the academy. All right. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Meet me in Santa Barbara later, Savannah. We'll have some wine on the porch, looking at the ocean. We talk about this stuff all day. Let's do a mastermind in Santa Barbara. Who's in? Me.
That sounds delightful.
Awesome. Okay. Yes. All right, Lalani, you're in. Thank you. Have to jump. Everyone has to jump. So I love it. You guys love it. The worksheets are yours. The resources are yours. No extra time. Download Audible, fold some laundry, listen to everything on 2x speed, absorb some content. I will see you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen.
Yay.